Right now, you're touching something. A phone, a desk, your own skin. And on the tip of every finger pressing into it, there's a little maze of ridges you've had your whole life. You were told those ridges are there to help you grip. That's wrong. In a lab in Manchester, somebody finally bothered to test it and found your fingerprints actually make your grip worse. Which leaves a strange hole where the obvious answer used to be. Because if the ridges on your fingers aren't for holding on to things, and we'll get to exactly how badly they fail at that, then what are they for? Why does every human get a pattern so unique that not even your identical twin shares it? Why is it carved into you before you're born and never changed again? Stick around, because the real answer is weirder than grip. By the end of this, you'll understand why the tip of your finger can feel a ridge smaller than you can see, and why a handful of people, born without these patterns, struggle to legally prove they exist at all. Start with the myth, because almost everyone believes it. The idea that fingerprints exist to improve grip has been floating around for more than 100 years. It feels obvious. Tires have thread, climbing shoes have grooves, our fingers have ridges. Same logic, surely more texture, more friction, better hold. It got better when biologists noticed we weren't alone. Chimps have fingerprints. Gorillas have them. Koalas, which aren't even primates, have ridged pads for climbing eucalyptus. Some South American monkeys have ridges on the underside of their tail, the part they hang from. Everything that grips, it seemed, came with the grooves. So everyone assumed the case was closed. For a century, nobody actually checked. Then, in 2009, a biomechanics researcher named Roland Enos at the University of Manchester decided to check. He'd already worked out what fingernails were really for, and fingerprints were nagging at him. His suspicion was almost heretical. Skin is soft and rubbery, and with rubber, the rules of friction change. So maybe, just maybe, the ridges weren't helping at all. He got a student, Peter Warman, and they ran the kind of experiment that sounds too simple to mean anything. They dragged people's fingertips against sheets of acrylic under carefully measured force and recorded how much friction the skin actually generated. Then they inked the fingers and took prints to measure exactly how much skin touched the surface. Here's what they found, and it quietly broke a 100-year-old assumption. With most solid objects, friction depends on how hard you press. But skin doesn't behave like a solid. It behaves like rubber, and with rubber, friction depends on how much surface is actually touching. And a ridged fingertip touches less. The valleys between your ridges aren't gripping anything. They're just gaps. When they measured it, the fingerprint reduced the contact area by about a third compared to smooth skin. A third. The grooves we'd all assumed were grip boosters were sitting there, doing the opposite, cutting your skin's contact with the world by 33% and lowering the friction. The thing you were told fingerprints are for is the one thing they're measurably bad at. Now, to be fair, the story isn't quite fingerprints do nothing for grip, the end. Later work pointed at something subtler. The ridges seem to act like tiny drainage channels. When your fingertip gets damp, the grooves let moisture escape and regulate how wet the surface between your skin and the object stays. Not too dry, not too slippery. So there may be a small grip benefit hiding in there, but it's about managing water, not about adding traction. Which is a long way from the simple playground physics we all got taught. The thread on a tire, it turns out, was always a bad metaphor for the thing on your hand. But that still leaves the big hole. Because if grip is, at best, a minor side effect, 100 years of confident explanation just quietly fell apart. And evolution doesn't carve an identical, intricate pattern into every primate hand, generation after generation, for a minor side effect. Something else was paying the bill. So that leaves the real question wide open. If 100 years of obviously its grip just collapsed in a lab, what is the actual job? This is where it gets good. From Manchester to Paris, where a team led by a physicist named Georges Debraygias was chasing a different idea entirely. That fingerprints have nothing to do with holding objects, and everything to do with feeling them. To test it, they built a fake finger. A small artificial fingertip wired with a sensor, in two versions, one smooth, one carved with ridges at the same spacing as real human fingerprints. Then they dragged each one across textured surfaces and listened, electronically, to the vibrations running through it. The logic was simple. If the ridges mattered for touch, the two fingers would hear the same surface completely differently. They did. The smooth finger produced a messy, muddy signal, a smear of noise with no clear shape. The ridged finger did something else entirely. As it scanned across a texture, the ridges acted like the teeth of a comb running over a surface, turning that texture into a clean, rhythmic vibration, and that vibration landed, almost perfectly, on a single narrow band of frequency, right around 250 Hz. On its own, that's just a number. Here's the part nobody tells you, the part that turns a number into something a little eerie. Deep under your fingertip, about 2 millimeters below the surface, sit touch receptors called Pacinian corpuscles. They're the specialists, the ones responsible for reading the finest detail, the textures too small for your other receptors to resolve. And like any tuned instrument, they have a favorite frequency. One specific vibration they respond to more strongly than any other, the pitch where they go from barely noticing to hearing it loud and clear. That frequency is 250 Hz. The exact note your fingerprints play. Sit with how strange that is. The ridges on your fingertip are spaced, almost to the millimeter, to convert the texture of the world into precisely the one frequency the nerves underneath are best at detecting. So your fingerprints aren't a grip tool at all. They're a tuning fork. As you drag your finger across a surface, the ridges take all that chaotic micro-texture and rebroadcast it as a signal pitched perfectly for the receiver buried below. They're a signal processor for touch, built in, working right now, silently, every single time your finger moves across anything at all. That's the real answer. Not grip, resolution. They're there to let you feel the world in higher definition. Which raises one more question, and this is the strangest layer of all. Where does the pattern even come from? Because nobody assigns it. Your DNA doesn't store a blueprint of your fingerprint the way it stores your eye color. In 2023, a team at the University of Edinburgh worked out how the pattern actually forms. Months before birth, tiny ridges start rising on the fetal fingertip, driven by competing molecular signals. Some genes switch ridge growth on, others switch it off. And the way those signals fight and spread follows a piece of mathematics first dreamed up by Alan Turing. The same equations that paint stripes on a zebra and spots on a leopard are the ones drawing the loops and whorls on you. The pattern is set by about 24 weeks in the womb, and then it's frozen for life. It never changes again. You will die with the same ridges you had as a 6-month-old fetus. They'll grow larger as your hands grow, but the pattern itself, the specific arrangement of every loop and whorl, is locked. That's why no two are identical. It isn't really genetics doing the fine detail. It's chaos, the exact pressure of the amniotic fluid, the position of your fingers, the way you happen to move your hands in the dark before you had eyes to see them. Two identical twins, same DNA down to the last letter, still come out with different fingerprints. The broad pattern type might match. The fine detail never does. You are quite literally the only person who has ever worn yours or ever will. And somewhere along the way, we noticed that. In 1892, in Argentina, a murder was solved for the first time using a bloody fingerprint left at the scene. That single case quietly rewired how the entire world thinks about identity. Within a few decades, the pattern evolution built for feeling had been repurposed into the most powerful proof of who that humans had ever found. Now bring it back to you, sitting here, holding whatever you're holding. For 300 million years, these ridges did one quiet, invisible job. They let our ancestors feel the difference between a ripe fruit and a rotten one in the dark. They let you, right now, feel a single grain of sand on an otherwise smooth surface. They're not for the world. They're for reading it. And then, in about a single century, we took that ancient sensing tool and gave it a completely different job. We decided it was you, your identity, your password. The thing that unlocks your phone, clears you through an airport, proves to a government that you are a real and specific person. Which is fine, until you're one of the people who doesn't have them. In northern Bangladesh, there's a young man named Apu Sarkar. He's in his early 20s, and across 4 generations, the men in his family have been born with smooth, blank fingertips. No ridges, No loops. Nothing. The condition is so rare that scientists have a name for it, a dermatoglyphia, and a darker nickname coined by a Swiss doctor whose first patient was held at the US border, the immigration delay disease. For most of human history, this would have meant almost nothing. For Apu, it means he can't buy a SIM card in his own name. The shop's scanner just freezes on his blank fingertip and gives up. His family registers their phones under his mother's name instead. Getting a national ID, a passport, a driver's license, each one becomes a fight to prove that a person standing right there, breathing, actually exists. Think about what that really means. He has done nothing wrong. He is standing in front of you, alive, undeniable. And yet the systems we've built increasingly shrug at the living person and ask instead for the pattern. And when the pattern isn't there, it's the human being who gets treated as the error. The body is present. The proof is missing. And we have quietly decided the proof matters more. So here's your challenge. Look down at your fingertip for a second. That little maze you never chose, that turns texture into a 250 Hz hum for nerves you can't feel. That pattern is now the one part of your body the modern world has quietly agreed is you. Evolution spent 300 million years building you an instrument for feeling the world in detail finer than your eyes could ever see. Then, in about 100 years, we took that instrument and turned it into a key. The ridges that once read the texture of a leaf now just unlock a screen. You were given fingerprints to feel the world, and we decided they were for proving you're real. Ain't that a bitch?